This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. Thanks everyone for coming. We begin our Shiur on Sefer Devarim. But of course Sefer Devarim is the parsha before Tisha B'Av. So that's what we're going to speak about this evening. We'd once again like to thank the Zakheim family. I want to thank Dr. Zakheim for sponsoring Sefer Devarim. Lila Nishmas, Rav Shlomo Eliezer ben Harav Yaakov, whose yard site is approaching. So Shama Shabbat Aliyah, B'Yal Meil Siyosher for his whole family, for the whole mishpacha, children, grandchildren, Ad Bias Goyel Tzedek. And tonight's shiur is sponsored by Eliezer Jacobowitz, as chutz for shidduch for Mordechai Yecheskel ben Necha Devoira. Also sponsored by Rabbi Yoel Klugman for shidduch for Shoshana Blima Bas Miriam. And Yibam Hashem should send them all their zivug hagon b'karov mamish. Okay, are you able to hear me on that? Yeah? Okay. Welcome everyone. Bruchim Habaim. Tisha B'Av. So Tisha B'Av, if you're a grump and a grouch, is a very wonderful day. And the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Tav Kuf Nun Daled, Ein she'elas shalom l'chaver b'Tisha B'Av. You don't greet your friend on Tisha B'Av. I know people, they're makbid on this the whole year. Because, they might not remember when Tisha B'Av is. But on Tisha B'Av, you don't greet your friend. And what about regular people? The hedyoitos, regular people. Sheinam yoidim and oisim sham. And they come into shul, they say, Vasmachstir, how you doing? What's going on? What's flying? What's hanging? And so what do you say? Meishivin lahem b'safa rafa v'kadosh. You respond to them in a muffle, moo, boo. You mumble to them, and basically you're intimating, we can't really do this on Tisha B'Av. It says in Mishnah Berurah, can you wish your friend good morning on Tisha B'Av? No, you can't even say good morning. I once saw that you're allowed to say Mazel Tov to somebody, because that's not a greeting, it's a bracha. And says the Mishnah Berurah, let's say an Am Haaretz comes over to you. So if the Am Haaretz comes over to you, you tell them, look, today we don't greet each other today. It's not that kind of thing. And you explain to them, otherwise you don't want to create any animosity between you and the Am Haaretz. Fine. So Tisha B'Av is a day that we don't greet, we're not friendly, we're grouchy, and we're grumpy. So for all you grouchy people out there, you have a day to look forward to. What else do we not do on Tisha B'Av? We know we don't learn on Tisha B'Av. Also, I know people who are makbid on this the whole year. But it's a good audience tonight. So, we don't learn on Tisha B'Av. The Mechaber says, Siman Tav Kuf Nun Daled, you're now to read Chumash, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, Mishnah, Medrash, Halacha, Agada, because it says, Pikudei Hashem Yesharim Misamche Leiv. And the children, they don't go to yeshiva. So some people actually look forward to Tisha B'Av. Children don't go to yeshiva, but what are you allowed to learn? You're allowed to learn the sad subjects of Eov and Yirmiyah, and if there are any happy psukim, you skip them. So we're not friendly on Tisha B'Av, and we don't learn on Tisha B'Av. It seems to be counterintuitive. After all, why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed? It was destroyed because of sinas chinam, baseless hatred. People were unfriendly and couldn't get along with each other. So what do? Ribono Shel Olam, if you thought we were miserable to each other until now, wait till you see us, how bad we are on Tisha B'Av. Look how miserable we are bein adam mechaber on Tisha B'Av. Here a guy could come into shul, it's so nice to see you. You really give them the cold shoulder. So here it is, it's the day that we're commemorating the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash because of sinas chinam. So the Chachamim instituted the single most compelling and powerful practice of sinas chinam. Don't say hello to anybody, don't greet anybody, and ignore your fellow man. Well, that would, if anything, I would have expected, Shulchan Aruch says, everyone should right before Baruch Shamar should go over to everyone in the shul. Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? Vas machzer. They should be misaking. You should greet each other on Tisha B'Av. No, you're not allowed to say hello to your friend on Tisha B'Av. It's Counterintuitive. What else? Why else was the Beis Hamikdash destroyed? The Navi Yirmiyah says, Al Ozvam es Tairasi. They forsook Torah. So you say, Ribono Shel Olam, if you think we forsook Torah until now, wait till you see how bad we are on Tisha B'Av. Watch this. Tisha B'Av, we spend the whole day watching one movie after another. Right? For weeks and weeks and weeks. Advertisements of all the different videos that you're mechuyev to watch, until whether you're even allowed to watch any of them. Ask your local Orthodox rabbi if they have anything at all to do with Churban Beis Hamikdash. I don't know. You know, what happened to sitting on the floor crying for the temple? Nowadays, the mitzvah's hayoim is watching movies on Tisha B'Av. So here it is. The Beis Hamikdash is destroyed because we don't learn. So what do? Tisha B'Av, we don't learn. So we're miserable to each other and we don't learn. We make sure to magnify and aggrandize the two biggest sins that destroyed the temple. What's going on over here? Asks Rav Mordechai Druk in the Sefer Darash Mordechai. Why was the first Beis Hamikdash destroyed? The three biggies: Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, Shvichas Damim. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of the three cardinal sins: Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, Shvichas Damim. That's interesting. That's what the Gemara says, right? The Gemara in Yuma. On the other hand, the Navi Yirmiyah, the prophet Jeremiah, tells us that why was the first Beis Hamikdash destroyed? The Navi says like this: who's the man who understands this? V'asher diber pi Hashem elav yagida almav daharetz nitzasacha midbar mibli oiveh. When do we read that? That's the reading for Tisha B'Av, right? Asoif asifeim neom Hashem. So who is the man who is wise, who understands this, that spoke, and who could relay the following matter? Why was the land destroyed? And Vayohimer Hashem alas vames toirasi asher nasati lifneihem. God says, you know why the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed? Because they forsook the Torah. They didn't listen to my voice. Says the Gemara Nedarim, this matter was a great mystery. Nobody could understand. Nobody could explain. Why was the Beis Hamikdash destroyed? They asked the Chachamim. They said, I don't know, beats me. They asked the prophets. The prophet said, no clue. They asked the heavenly angels. Heavenly angel says, I don't know. They had to ask the Ribono Shel Olam. And the Ribono Shel Olam said, you know why? They forsook the Torah. What does that mean, they forsook the Torah? They woke up in the morning and they said Al Natilas Yadayim, followed by Asher Yatzar, followed by Elei Nekai Neshama, followed by Asher Nasan Lasech Vivina Lahavchem Ben Yom Uvein Loila, and they skipped Birchas HaTorah. They didn't make a Birchas HaTorah. So there's a question here. Why was the first temple destroyed? The Gemara says they went around shooting people, bowing down to images of Buddha, and committing adultery. They violated the big three. And the Gemara Nedarim says, no, they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. Now that's a big discrepancy. One Gemara says they were mass murderers, and the other Gemara says they skipped the bracha and the siddur. Yeah. So yeah, it would seem that
post.
It was post, huh?
Yeah.
So good point. So how could the Gemara say that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because they didn't make Birchas HaTorah? Birchas HaTorah came later. So if you look in the, actually, I have a bar mitzvah tonight of my nephew, Naftali Herzka Pinter, and it's in Lakewood. And I couldn't miss 2 Wednesday nights in a row. And I also, by the way, if anyone's doing Daf HaShavua, we missed Daf HaShavua, so we're doing that at 10 o'clock tonight. So I'm here at the Shiur against, I have family that's, they would have liked me to be there, but at least I'll say over a Shagas Aryeh. There's a minog yisrael you say over a Shagas Aryeh at a bar mitzvah. The joke is, Eliyahu Hanavi comes to every bris, and the Shagas Aryeh comes to every bar mitzvah. Because every bar mitzvah pshato has a Shagas Aryeh. Anyway, so the Shagas Aryeh says that Birchas HaTorah is the Iraisa. And the Gemara in Brachos darshans it from a pasuk, Kishem Hashem Ekra, Havu Goydel Elokeinu. So even though You're right. I'm sorry. What's this gentleman's name? Rabbi Yitzchak is saying that the Anshe Knesset Gdola formulated Berachas HaTorah. Nevertheless, in principle, it is biblical, which means that before the Anshe Knesset Gdola came along, everyone was obligated to say some form of Berachas HaTorah. So, according to the Gemara Nadarim, the sin of in the times of the first Beis Hamikdash was they did not make Berachas HaTorah. So, what was it? Was it they violated the big three, or they didn't make Berachas HaTorah? Okay, Rabbi Isai, fasten your seatbelts. And we are going to read now one of the Gemaras of Kamsa Bar Kamsa, which every year everybody reads the Gemara Kamsa Bar Kamsa, but they do the first 10 lines, and then that's as far as many people get. And then next year again they review the same story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. And everyone knows Kamsa Bar Kamsa. The next two blot after that, that's a different story. So there's actually, the Gemara says Kamsa Bar Kamsa precipitated the Churban, but that wasn't the final blow. The final blow was the following story in Gittin, Nun Ches Amud Aleph. We were just Zoiche, Rabbi Dov was with us, to stand at the kever of Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. In Lublin, we were standing there, waiting for the guy to open up Reb Tzadok's kever. So we said over that there's a great principle in Shas, that wherever an Agadah Gemara appears, it's related to that particular Masechta. So in which Masechta is the Gemara about the Churban? In Gittin, because Hashem destroying the Beis Hamikdash was, so to speak, Hashem parting for us, like the concept of a get. Be it as it may, the Gemara says the following story. What was the Makkah Patish? There was a student, an apprentice, who learned by a carpenter. And he had his eyes on his master's wife. And the master was in a bind, and the master needed to borrow money. So he turns to his student, he says, "Can I borrow $100? He said, "No problem, just send your wife to me. I'll be happy to send it to you through her." So the guy sends his wife, and the Gemara says he spent 3 days being mezaneh with his master's wife. 3 days later, the master comes back. He says, where did my wife go? He said, "I don't know, I sent her back right away. I heard on the way home she was fooling around." He said, "Oy vay." She says, "Well, what should I do?" He said, if I were you, if you listened to me, I would divorce her right away." Really? Thank you so much for the good advice. He divorced her right away, and the student then married her right away. In the meantime, he owes his student money. He wasn't able to pay back. The student says, "No problem, now you're going to be my Eved." And the Gemara says, the student and the former wife of the master were sitting on the table, joking around, enjoying each other's company, while the former husband was serving them, crying bitter tears, and his tears went in their cup. And at that moment, Hashem was Goizer, the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Now, how come I never heard that? You think in yeshiva they prefer to tell you the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa? They can tell you this story. This is not that's not going to go over. They tell you there was a party and there was a guy Kamsa and another guy who had another name that sounded like that, and they kicked him out of the party. But that's not the story. That's not what happened. That's the beginning of the story. That's not the Makkah Patish. Then you have to actually learn the next page, and the next page says this is the story. Frekt Rabbi Yaakov Emden. What did the guy do wrong? What did the student do wrong? He was mezaneh with an Eishes. No, the Gemara doesn't say that when he was mezaneh with her, Hashem was goyz of the Churban. The Gemara doesn't say that. At that point in time, there was no impending punishment on the Jewish people. So this guy is obviously a bad guy, and he's a Rasha for living with a married woman. But that is not what caused the Churban. What caused the Churban is him and her sitting on the table, and the servant, the master serving them. And so, what did they do wrong? He told him to divorce her, which he needed to do anyway because she was mazaneh, so she's a soita. So he did need to divorce her, and then he married her. What's wrong? He married her. So. What avera was performed over here? Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden. From this Gemara we learn a frightening concept, that the worst sin in the Torah is not written in the Torah. There's an avera that is so severe, it's worse than all 613 mitzvahs. Well, what's the avera? The avera is, don't be a frum hypocrite. I asked the Shaila, I don't even want to say this word, and I'm not going to. But I asked the question, can I say it? The reason why I want to say this word is this is the best way to say it. Don't be a J-E-R-K. That is the biggest sin in the Torah. Don't be a religious J-E-R-K, a frum J-E-R-K. Don't make believe you're a frummy, self-righteous, with a lange bard and a lange rekel, and you're going to be makbid on all your chumras and mow down anyone in your way and mess over anyone in your way. You're going to triple park your car on 13th Avenue and block 500 cars behind you so you could buy your non-Gebrux Pesach products. What do you mean? This is my Messiah. Yeah, your Messiah is to ruin everybody else's day at the cost of everybody else. You're going to be makbid on your chumrah. The biggest sin in the Torah is don't be a righteous hypocrite. It's worse than murder. It's worse than adultery. And it's worse than idolatry. God says, you want to commit adultery? No problem. Gesundheit, go. You want to murder people? Go do it. Don't make believe you're doing it as a frummy. That this guy, he said he was very makbid. He wouldn't touch her until she got a get from the guy. As if everything he's doing is beheter. He asked his Rav, he found, according to the Mishnah, according to all the poskim, exactly what he's doing is mutter, and then he's going to mess over everybody in his way. That's the biggest sin in the Torah. To be a frum hypocrite. Anybody know the name of Sefer Bereshis? Sefer HaBriah, Sefer HaYetzira, and in the Navi it is called Sefer HaYashar. Sefer HaYashar. In Sefer Yehoshua it says Haloi hi kesuva al Sefer HaYashar. Behold, it's written in the book of the just. In Shmuel it says L'lamed b'nei Yehuda keshes hine kesuva al Sefer HaYashar. By the way, why is it called Sefer HaYashar? Says the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Chaf Hei, Rabbi Yochanan says Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were called Yesharim. Really? Why don't we call them Tzadikim, Chasidim, Talmidei Chachamim? No. They were all of that. But you know what their greatest title was? They were straight. That's it. Imagine, with all the things that we could say about a Gadol B'Yisrael, he's a Goin, he's a Lamdin, he's a Tzaddik, he's a Baal Chesed, that's not the greatest title. The greatest title is to be a Yashar. What did Bilam say? Bilam said, Tamois nafshi mois Yesharim. I want to die like the Yesharim. Says the Netziv. In Parshas Hazinu, we say God is a Yashar. Hatzur Tamim Pa'alai Kichal Derachav Mishpat Kel Emunah V'inavat Tzadik V'Yashar. God is straight. Why do we say God is straight? Because we're saying He doesn't tolerate Dar Ikeshu Fasaltal. He doesn't tolerate shenanigans. You want to be a Rasha? Gesundheit. God has no problem with Rasham. He could deal with wicked people. You want to commit sin? Don't say, I heard the rabbi said, no. That's what we call in Yiddish a hal b'tzara. You want to sin? That's a half a problem. Worse than sin is making believe you're a tzaddik and in the guise of your righteousness, messing everybody else over. And the Netziv says, you know what the problem in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash was? In the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, they didn't murder anyone. They didn't worship idols. They didn't commit adultery. So you would think, okay, they're better than the times of the first Beis HaMikdash. No. In the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, they were great. We knew who they were. They were murderers. So great. They're honest people. It's an honest day's work. They come, they say, Shalom Aleichem. They come to Shul. I'm a Rasha. Watch out. I could chop off your head. So we know exactly who they are. The guy says, look, I'm a wicked person. I bow down to idols. That's a half a problem. But in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, they were oisek b'Torah. They were lamdonim. Oh, watch out for the lamdan. Watch out for the Talmud Chacham. Because in the guise of his self-righteousness, he could pull a shenanigan that God detests and hates more than pure wickedness. The greatness of the Avos, says the Netziv, was the fact that they were Yesharim. Which means, he says, that even with Gentiles, and even with Ovdei Avodah Zarah, they dealt with them with kavod, with respect, and they dealt with them ba'ahava, and they were concerned for their welfare. But in times of the second Beis Hamikdash, this is what the Netziv writes. I'm not adding any editorial comments. Netziv said, in times of the second Beis Hamikdash, Reuven looked at Shimon. Shimon, the yarmulke you're wearing, the color of it, is a little bit off of the way that I hold the yarmulke should be, and therefore I paskin you're an tzedoki and you're an apikoros, and therefore I could kill you. Shimon, you know, the height of your stramo is not tall enough. By unsere heimische Yidden, the strimel here has to stand up at least 8 inches off the top of the crown. Your stram only stands up 7 inches, and therefore you're a heretic, you're a tzedoki, you're an apikoros, and it's a mitzvah to destroy you. That's what was going on in times of the second Beis HaMikdash. There was a lack of yashros. Are you kidding me? That's what you're concerned about? That's what you're worried about? The worst sin, says Rav Druk, you wake up in the morning, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? And what are you thinking? I don't care how the guy's doing. Well, I'm not even sure why I'm asking how he's doing. How's your family? You're thinking to yourself, I don't care how this family is. Actually, right now I'm thinking is, how can I mess this guy over? So while you're greeting the person, and while you're making believe you're being nice to the person, you're thinking, I'm only greeting him because I want to look like a nice guy. And I'm only greeting him because I want to let him let his guard down. So while he's not looking, I could steal the wallet out of his back pocket and I could destroy his life. That's what God detests. God says, don't go over to somebody and say, how you doing, Shalom Aleichem, and you don't care how they're doing. I'd rather you go over to somebody and say, I hate you, Rabbi Yid. Shalom Aleichem, I dislike you. That is better in the eyes of God than to go over, oh, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? And you really don't care. You could care less. My son will correct me that there's no expression you could care less. You couldn't care less, right, Yuda? Thank you. So you couldn't care less about them. I have to bring my grammar expert. Right? So you don't care how the person is doing. Says the Navi Yirmiyah, look at number 13. Chetz shachot l'shaynam mirma diber, like a sharpened arrow. Their tongue speaks deceit. Bepiv, with their mouth, shalom Yisrael yedaber. They speak peace to their friend. But, v'vikirba yasam arbai. In their midst, in their insides, they're waiting to lay ambush on them. Says God, how can I not punish the Jewish people? Not because they're not being nice. I don't care if they're not nice. I don't care if they don't greet their friend. What I do care about is if they greet their friend with an empty greeting, a meaningless, a shell, superficiality, that has no meaning to me. God says I have to destroy them because of that. And therefore, says Rav Druk, you know what we tell people to do on Tisha B'Av? To go over to their friend and go, meh, meh. Don't say anything. What do you mean? But you're not being nice. Better to be not nice than to be fake nice. Better to be not nice than to be a hypocrite. Better to be not nice than to be, Shalom Aleichem, I'm so happy to be at your simcha. Meaning, I can't wait until you turn around so I could run out. It's such a beautiful simcha, especially when I'm finished greeting you and I can leave. I get so much nachas from watching your children at your simcha. Actually, I don't even know who your children are. I wish you're the chassan and kala. They should build a bayah. Are you kidding me? What do you care about the chassan and kala? So cut it out. Cut out the nonsense. Cut out the sheker. Don't say a word. Better not to say a word than to have empty formality. And then spend the day thinking about to try to inject some degree of truth to the greetings that you give other people. But what about Limud Torah? Why are we telling people not to learn on Tisha B'Av? And with this we come to really a very frightening concept. You know, in the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, bad stuff was going on. They were murdering people. They were committing adultery. They were bowing down to idols. How? Weren't they learning Torah? Why didn't the Torah protect them from the Yetzer Hara? The Gemara in Saita says that Limud Torah, while you're learning it, and even if you're not learning it, it protects you from Yisurim, and it guards you, it wards off the Yetzer Hara. But here's the issue. In the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, they were learning. There was a lot of learning. There was Daf Yomi, Amud Yomi, Mishnah Berurah Yomi, Chafetz Chaim Yomi, Nach Yomi, everything. You name it, they did it. You name it, they learned it. But they weren't making a Birchas HaTorah. And the Ran, in Masechta Nedarim, quotes Rabbeinu Yoina that if they weren't making Birchas HaTorah, that means they did not value the learning as a way of connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They were not learning Torah Lishma. They were doing it. It was interesting, it was exciting, it was stimulating, but they didn't learn Torah Lishma. Learning Torah Lishma means learning Torah because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded us to, and this is how we connect to Him. So they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. We're about to learn a great principle, that the Yesod, that Torah protects you from the Yetzer Hara is only if you learn Torah Lishma. If you don't learn Torah Lishma, it doesn't protect you from the Yetzer Hara. Now, the Gemara does tell us, and the Or HaChaim HaKadosh quotes the famous stira. You know, the Gemara says that someone who learns Torah Shaloi Lishma, it's better if they were never born. Better if the mother's placenta was turned over and they never were born. On the other hand, the Gemara says, "La'olam yasek adam b'tarva mitzvahs afilu shaloi lishma, shemitach shalishma balishma." It's good to learn shalishma. It will bring you to learn lishma. So make up your mind: is it better that you never be created, or should you learn shaloi lishma? It will bring you to lishma. So the Gemara says, and basically the Rishonim tell us, there are two kinds of shaloi lishma. Some people learn Torah to argue. They're learning Torah to fight with the rabbi, to fight with their wife, to fight with somebody. They're learning just to aggravate, to instigate, then they're better not being created. That kind of learning is negative. However, if somebody learns Torah for honor, for respect, they want people to respect them, they learn, they want to be considered knowledgeable, so that's not the highest level, but that kind of learning will eventually bring to lishma. Shemitach shaloi lishma balishma. You know, in yeshiva, little kids, why do they learn? They're learning to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're learning because they're going to get food, they're going to get a good grade, or they're going to get spanking if they don't, whatever it is. But that's also good. Shemitach shaloi lishma balishma. But, says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, even though it will ultimately bring to lishma, it will not protect you from the Yetzer Hara. Learning Torah Shaloi Lishma will not protect you from the Yetzer Hara. And that answer, says Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the Gemara says that someone who learns Torah is protected from the Yetzer Hara. So why Doyeg and Achi Toifel? Why weren't they protected from the Yetzer Hara? Because they weren't learning Lishma. This idea is also advanced by Rabbi Eliyahu Lapian in number 18, quoting Rabbi Litzla Petterberg, that only Torah Lishma protects us from the Yetzer Hara. Torah Shaloi Lishma will not protect someone from the Yetzer Hara. In other words, you can have two people. They're both learning. The shiur is over, a temptation comes their way. One will give in and one will overcome. Why? Somebody who learns Lishma will be equipped to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Someone who learns for ulterior motives will not be equipped to overcome the Yetzer Hara. Says the Chidah in the Abbas David, we had a kasha, we had a question. Why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed? On the one hand, The Gemara says they violated Avodah Zarah, Gilul Ayah, Shvichas Damim. The big three. On the other hand, the Gemara says they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. Which one was it? Was it they were mass murderers or they skipped the bracha on the Siddur? Which one? The Chidah asked another question. How could the Navi ask? You remember the Navi Yirmi asked, Alma of the Haaretz, why was the first Beis HaMikdash destroyed? Yeah, I wonder. Go outside. There are people mowing down. There are people, murdering. There are people committing avodah zarah. There are people committing adultery. And you want to know why the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed? What kind of question is an Alma of the Haaretz? And why do you need to give an answer? Because they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. There's a much more severe crime. You know what the answer is? The question Alma of the Haaretz is we know they were murderers. We know they committed adultery. We know they bowed down to idols. But how could they be brought to such a low level? Weren't they learning Torah? Why didn't the Torah they learned protect them? How could Jews, B'nai Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, how could it be that a Jew, Banim Lamakim, children, descendants of the Avos, how could they come to such a level where they were shooting people and committing adultery and bowing down to idols? They were learning Torah. And the answer is, yeah, they were learning Torah. But they didn't make a bracha, so they weren't learning Lishma. And if you don't learn Lishma, you ain't going to be protected from the machinations of the Yetzer Hara, and you are prey to the Yetzer Hara. That's the answer. How could they be brought to such a low level? They were not learning Torah Lishma. And if you don't learn Torah Lishma, you're dead meat. And now let's take it one level further. And I remember I heard this many years ago. I heard Rav Noach Isaac Obam quote Rabbi Yashiv, and I called him today to confirm. And I asked, where does Rabbi Yashiv say this? It's in a sefer written by Rabbi Zucker, the Rosh Kollel of Chicago. He quotes Rabbi Yashiv, if you want to know where it is. We always think Torah is great, it's wonderful, it's amazing. The best thing a Jew could do. It's the greatest mitzvah, and it is. But not always. It could also be dangerous. It could also be poisonous. It could also be deadly. Torah is not always beneficial. What? How could you say that? The Gemara tells us in Masechta Shabbos that Hashem says, listen, I speak to kings. Shamu ki negidim adaber. Torah is compared to a king. Just like a king, says the Gemara in Shabbos number 21, that peches, a king could kill and bring to life. Divrei Torah. Torah could kill someone, and Torah could bring to life. That's what Rava meant. To those who are on the right, it is an elixir of life. To those who are on the left, it's poison. What does that mean, those on the right, those who are on the left? Take a look at number 22, a Gemara in Shabbos, a Gemara in Tainis. The Gemara darshans on the pasuk, Ya'aroif kamotar likhi tizal katal imrasi. Anyone who learns Torah Lishma, the Torah is an elixir of life, is medicine. It's an Eitz Chayim hi l'machazikim ba. If you learn Torah Lishma, the Torah is an elixir of life. However, if somebody learns Shaloi Lishma, Torah is poison. Huh? I thought we say, here, let a Jew learn and it will turn him around. The Gra explains as follows. Torah is like rain. Is rain good? Rain's good. You need rain. Nothing could grow without rain. Aber, it depends. Depends what's planted in the field. If wheat is planted in the field, then wheat will grow. But what if in the field is planted poison ivy? Or what if in the field, give me some poisonous weeds. Milkweed? Milkwood? What?
Poppies.
What?
Poppies.
Poppies? Those are poison?
But people inject it, yeah.
Okay, there you go. So you could have poppies, you could have poison ivy. You can have milkwood. So you say, is rain good? No, not if poisonous weeds are planted in the field, then the rain is not good. Because rain is wonderful, but it can only bring out what's already laying beneath the surface. That is why the midah of the earth is eretz, emes me eretz titzmach. You know what? The ground is called truth. Because the ground is very truthful. Whatever you plant, that's what will grow. If you plant an orange, you're not going to get a pear. If you plant wheat, you're not going to get a banana. It's the land is very truthful. And therefore rain is wonderful as long as the right things are planted. The Torah is rain. But here's the thing. It depends what's inside the neshama. If there's good character inside the neshama, if there is humility and kindness and ayin toiva and forgiving and forbearing and a good eye, then the Torah will bring out this good personality and good character in even greater form. But what if laying beneath the surface is sinna, arrogance, an evil eye, jealousy, kinna? Then as bad as this guy was before, he'll be even worse after he learns. Torah only is like the rain, says the Gra in Mishlei, Parak Yotes, Pasuk Tes. Says the Gra, Eid Shekarim lo yinaka. If one is a false witness, if within one's soul there are bad midos, there is poisonous gall and wormwood planted. If, says the Gra, I want to read to you inside, otherwise you're not going to even believe me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line. V'hageshem ba l'chol ha'aretz b'shava. He says, Geshem waters all land equally. Ach pulasa l'fi ha'makabel, but it's effective depending on the recipient. Makom shezaru achitim, where wheat is planted, azai machmasai yitzmach sham chitim, then wheat will grow. Makom shezaru samamavis, where poisonous plants are planted, tatzmiach samamavis machmasai, poison will grow. Ach hageshamim atzmam nikra l'olam toiv. Rain is always good. Torah is wonderful. If you have a good heart, then you'll have more Yirah Shamayim. But if in your heart is jealousy, arrogance, a bad eye, then you will become even more arrogant, even more stingy, and have an even worse eye. The Torah is like spiritual steroids. It will only bring out what's already beneath the surface. The Gra in the Emden Shem, by the way, after the Holocaust, my grandfather, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, was the head of the religious department of the Joint Distribution Committee, and he printed Sfarim for the survivors. One of the first Sfarim he printed was the Even Shlema of the Gra. And the Even Shlema of the Gra says the following idea. There are 3 important Gemaras in Shas about a Beis HaKisei. About the bathroom. Bathrooms are very important. The Gemara in Masechta Bracha says on Ches Amud Beis, on the Pasuk in Tehillim, Al zoyis yispalel kol chosid eilecha le'eis mitzai. The Gemara says on the Pasuk in Tehillim, you should daven for this. Now, the Gemara wants to know, what is the this that you need to daven for? Because the truth is you have to daven for everything in life. Everything you want, you have to daven. But the Gemara says, you have to daven for this. So there are different perushim in the Gemara. One opinion is this, for a good wife. More than anything else, you have to pray for a good wife. This, the Gemara says, is a good Torah, to be successful in Torah. To be successful, you need to more praise than anything else. This, the Gemara says that you should die a good death. La maves toitzos. There are over 900 ways to go. You should daven for an easy way. One opinion of the Gemara is you should daven for Kvuras Yisrael. They should have a good burial. During COVID, some people, it was tough, They had bodies just laying in mounds until they were Zercha to Kvura. Somehow, my grandfather, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, he passed away on the first day of Pesach. There was a small opening in COVID. His body was taken to Eretz Yisrael. On Chol Hamoed, so who's going to be metapel in the Kvura? The Hasidim on Chol Hamoed, they wear stramlach on Chol Hamoed. So if you, the people who are metabonis kfura were Hasidim with the proper height stramlach, so he was zoichet to bakava dika kfura. But the Gemara says more than anything else, you have to daven for a respectable burial. And one opinion is, more than anything else in life, you have to daven for a good bathroom. Because you never know, you could be in the Ukraine, you could be in Poland, and at the right to when you need a beis hakisei, there's nothing else that you need more than a beis hakisei. And the Gemara's conclusion is, that's the correct opinion. More than anything in life, you need to daven for a good beis hakisei. I mean, that's the Gemara? That's really? You gotta be kidding, that's what the Gemara says. You're saying that if somebody goes to the Koisel HaMaravi, and he comes to daven, what should he be mispal? He goes to Kever Rachel. He goes to daven, and the Kibbutz said, what should he daven for? He has a kvittel. What does it say on the kvittel? I can't really say right now. What is it? That's one Gemara. Next Gemara. The Gemara says, Hamarich bebeis hakisei ma'arichin lo yama v'shnaisav. The more time you spend in the beis hakisei, the longer you'll live. So Pashup Pshat is, you can't leave too early. You can't leave before the job is finished. Rav Miller would talk about the importance of, but really that's what the Gemara means. You should be marich in the beis hakisei. In another Gemara, the Gemara says, go early to the beis hakisei and stay late. There's a lot of emphasis on the beis hakisei. In fact, the Gemara says there was a certain Amoira. He came into the Beis HaMedrash, his face was shining. They said, Rebbe, are you eating chazer? Why you're so... He said, no. From my house to the Beis HaMedrash, there are 18 bathrooms, and I make sure to stop off in all of them. That's the Gemara. Says the Gra, what's going on over here? Why is the Talmud Bavli so fixated on the Beis HaKisei? Says the Gra, Beis HaKisei is the most important time in life, because it's a mashal. Beis HaKisei, of course, the Gemara means kapshutai. By the way, the kid came home from yeshiva and he said, the father said, what did you learn? He said, I learned the more you spend in the bathroom, the longer you live. He said, I'm getting out of this yeshiva. What kind of yeshiva? The father said, no, go back there. That's the proper yeshiva. But the Gra says it's a mashal. And the mashal is, learning Torah is great, but it's also dangerous. Because Torah is rain. And if somebody has good personality and good midos, the Torah will bring it out even more and more. But what if beneath the surface lays dormant some bad midos and some bad character, arrogance, jealousy, an ayin ra, achzarius, then the Torah is going to kill the person. The Torah is going to make him an even bigger rasha. There's stories in some of the yeshivas in Europe. Talmidim, they would sit on Shabbos smoking cigarette, learning K'tzais HaChoshen. That was commonplace. Well, what's going on? Why doesn't the Torah make them better? The answer is not only did the Torah not make them better, the Torah made them worse. Why? Because Torah is rain. And before you start your day learning, you have to go to the bathroom. Says the Gra, you have to be mefane. You need to defecate, excuse the expression. You need to rid yourself of the bad character. Before a person sits down to learn, says the Gra, the same way when a person goes to the bathroom, the Gemara says you have to be yemashmesh. Sometimes, if it's not working, you have to elicit the defecation. Why? You have to be yemashmesh to make sure that you rid yourself. So too the Gra says before a person learns Torah, they need to examine their soul to make sure that laying in their soul are not bad character traits and bad midos and a bad personality, to try to rid themselves of gaiva, of taiva, of kina, of ayin ra, and all bad midos. Therefore, of all the things we need to pray for, you need to pray for a bathroom. You know what that means, you need to pray for a bathroom? You need to pray for the ability to attempt, to make efforts to cleanse a person's character. Otherwise, a person could pull out of his driveway and knock off 30 mirrors on his way to the Beis HaMedrash to learn the Daf HaYomi. After all, he would never miss a daf. He just caused $50,000 of hefsid to half of his neighborhood. So what? He doesn't even turn around. He has every cool. It's a Roy Vakum, and probably it's a goy, and even if it's a yid, the guy owes me money because I bought him an aliyah, or I wanted to buy an aliyah. A person can have all kinds of cheshbonos. So before a person learns Torah, they have to visit the Beis HaKisei. And the longer you spend in this kind of reflection, the longer you spend in the Beis HaKisei, says the Gra, the more you cleanse yourself. So then when you come to learn, you're coming with a pure soul and a pure heart. The Torah will bring out good character. Let me just read this to you. Take a look at number 25. Top line, left-hand side. The Torah is called an elixir of life. The Torah is also called poison. Alkein, tzarech lefanois liboy b'chol yom. You need to defecate one's heart, clear out your heart every day. Koydem alimud, before learning. V'achrav, and after learning. Visit the bathroom before, visit the bathroom after. Before you learn, cleanse your character. After you learn, cleanse your character. Me'ipush hadeos, from the cobwebs of improper attitudes, v'hamidos, with fear of sin, amaisim toivim. And you have to investigate which midah is challenging me right now, so I could cleanse myself. Otherwise, you're in danger, because when you learn, the learning will just make the midah worse. Says Rabbi Yashiv, you ready for this? In the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, what destroyed the first Beis HaMikdash? Was it murder? Was it adultery? Was it idolatry? Or was it the fact that they didn't make Birchas HaTorah? The answer is, you know why they were murderers? Because they were learning. You know why they were adulterers? Because they were learning. And because they were learning Shaloi Lishma, and they didn't strive to perfect their character, that's what caused it. In the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, they had sinas chinam. Yeah, but they were learning! Great. Shkoyach, they were learning. The learning just made things worse. It's not enough to learn. It has to be accompanied by an attempt to cleanse your character. But if it's a self-righteous learning for self-promotion, for kavod, ultimately it might come lishma, but in the interim, it's not a type of learning that protects from the Yetzer Hara. So that's a frightening idea. Learning is not always good. So the answer is, the rest of the year, we say, give it your best shot. And mitach shaloi lishma, bal lishma. And we try our best to work on our character while we learn. However, there is an idea that learning could be detrimental. And that's what happened in times of the Churban. And therefore we tell everyone, on Tisha B'Av, better than a fake, self-righteous, hypocritical limud Torah, close the Gemara. Better not to learn than to learn Shaloi Lishma, that the Torah should be a samam of us. The rest of the year we're not so bold to take that drastic measure, but it's important to be aware that things are not always the way they seem. Not always is, learning is, it is the greatest mitzvah. But just like the rain is also wonderful. But Hurricane Sandy wasn't wonderful. And a tornado is not wonderful. And if you have poison planted, rain isn't good either. So Tisha B'Av, we shut down the store. We shut it all down. We drain the swamp on Tisha B'Av. We drain the swamp. Don't talk to anybody. None of the phony, superficial, empty niceties. Don't talk to anybody. Close your Gemara. Don't make believe you're a big tzaddik. First, let's get things straight. We have to come to the recognition of Ein anachnu azei panim loymar lefanecha tzadikim anachnu v'loy chatana. No. Tisha B'Av, we got to drain the swamp. We have to say, Ribono Shel Olam, We're pulling away the cover. We're removing all the fake niceties. We're removing our fake learning, and we are who we are. Aval anachnu va'avoseinu chatanu. And once we recognize Aval anachnu va'avoseinu chatanu, with that introduction, we could start again, and we could attempt again. Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? And you really mean it. How's your family? And we really care. And we open up a Gemara, and we try to use the Limud HaTorah as a way of elevating ourselves and perfecting ourselves. But it's worthwhile once a year. We shut down the store, we drain the swamp, we pull away all of our fake and empty and self-righteous superficialities, and we say, Ribono Shel Olam, let's not kid around. Let's not mask over our rishus in the guise of tzidkus. No. Aval anachnu va'avoseinu chatanu. And with that introduction, we could begin the process of rebuilding ourselves. We know how many kinnis are there on Tisha B'Av? 45 kinnis, gematria, Adam, because not only is the Beis HaMikdash bechorban, but we ourselves are in a state of chorban. And sometimes in order to rebuild, when a building is half collapsed, oh, that building, okay, good. That building in Florida, it's half up. Okay, now we'll just bring bricks and build the right side of the building. No. When a building is bechorban, you got to first bring in the demolition team. You got to knock it down and start from scratch. And that's what we do on Tisha B'Av. We got to drain the swamp, and then we could hope for binyan. We should be zeicha to see the binyan Beis HaMikdash and our own rebuilding. B'mhera v'yameinu, amen. If anybody wants to join us for the Kinnis program on Tisha B'Av, we'll have information out about where and when. Be'ezus Hashem, we hope to see everybody b'Yushalayim, b'mhera v'yameinu, amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.